So I'm a little bit ahead of the game today. I started working on the car before I started to film. The reason being I forgot my camera and I just wanted to get some stuff done. So the plan for the video today is to get the subframe finished, back in the car, the engine bolted to it, the steering rack bolted to it, and hopefully the car back on the ground. That is the goal. So what I have already done is I bolted the subframe back into the car, and now I'm going to loosen the tranny bracket mount and I'm going to center the engine. You can see the engine, this header is a little bit closer than that header right there. It just needs to come over a hair. After I do that, I am going to get the engine mounts to bolt to the subframe. So hopefully everything goes smoothly, and there's going to be a lot of fabricating in this video. What I'm going to do is I'm pretty much going to throw some tacks on the mounts. Over the store to get some cutoff wheels. I ran out, so once I get back I can finish the engine mount. Back home, just got a cutoff wheel and a sanding disc. So it took a little bit of grinding and pulling the mounts in and out, but both mounts are in and they are ready to go. All I have to do now is grind them down, grind both surfaces. Just finished tacking the engine mounts onto the subframe, and it was a pain. I did it the first time, and yeah, I didn't know that the oval right there, the bolt needed to be all the way at the bottom of that oval. I guess it makes sense when you lift the engine up, you know, the mounts don't move. So repositioned them with the bolt all the way on the bottom when the engine's sitting in the, you know, on the subframe. So now all I need to do is MIG that. Finish welding the subframe up. I sprayed it with some black spray paint just so the bare metal wouldn't rust. And I'm gonna go test fit it, make sure that everything lines up. The steering rack can go to the steering column, the engine mounts are correct, and then I'll pull it back out. I wanna make a jig from this, and I wanna make one out of tube so it isn't just a bunch of random pieces that I cut up, welded to this factory subframe, which is fine, it'll work, but I would rather just have like a brand new, you know, a lot lighter and slimmer piece instead of having what I have right here. It will work for now, but I want to make sure everything works, pull it out, make a jig, and then I'll throw it in for the time being. I probably won't make one until I paint the car, so I'll just have the jig laying around so I can make one of these later on. I just finished bolting the subframe in, and I was actually really worried that the engine mounts would have moved. I barely had them tacked on there, but it looks like they stayed. They're all welded in, and now I can actually drop the engine finally down and bolt it to the subframe. So let's see how this works. Ooh. Look at that. Look at that. The engine sits on the subframe. Got the steering rack bolted to the subframe, and one issue I knew I was going to have was I needed shorter tie rods. But one issue I didn't think I was going to have was the steering, you know, shaft doesn't clear the headers. Since the steering shaft is interfering with the headers, I'm going to remove them. And then I'm going to decide if I'm going to turbo this thing, or if I can find a set of headers that actually fits with clearing the steering shaft. I could modify these ones. I think they're for an S14. That could be the issue, but you know, the engine's bolted to the subframe, the steering rack's bolted to the subframe, and all I need to do is get tie rods to do the alignment, and headers isn't that big of a deal. I could probably modify these ones. Figured out the whole steering shaft situation. It was a pretty stupid one. I did not have the steering column bolted in, so it was giving a weird angle on the U-joint, which was giving the steering shaft a weird angle. Now it's bolted to the steering rack, the manual steering rack. The engine's bolted to the subframe, everything's bolted in. So I just finished the vent hard lines, and they came out exceptionally well. The back one and this side one were relatively easy. The front one that goes under the intake manifold right there was a little bit harder. It has a few more complex bends, just so everything cleared and it wasn't rubbing on anything. When I did, I had to remove the throttle body to make this line. It was just kind of in the way. But when I was going to put it back on, this came out. So I'm gonna have to get some panel bond, glue this thing back in. I'm not exactly sure why it came out that easy. It just literally popped right out. So I'll panel bond that one. Hopefully the other ones are okay. And then I can put the throttle body back on. And the other issue was the whole header situation. So Trevor had this turbo header at the shop. I borrowed it, but it doesn't seem like it fits anywhere on here. So my plan is I'm going to use the passenger side header as it is right here. This one right here, I will just leave it as how it is. The driver's side header, I'm going to pretty much what's fouling the frame rail are these two runners right there. The frame rail and the steering linkage, these two. So I'm going to cut those off and figure out a different way to route them. So probably what's going to happen is I'm going to route them so they're a little bit more tucked. I have plenty of room over in this area, so I'm going to have to do something. Put the R33 wheels on the front just to make sure they cleared the big brake kit that I have. I was really worried that they wouldn't, just because the brake kit is a decent size and these are 17s, but they just clear, which is awesome. So these are the wheels that I'm going to be running on the LS Coupe. I also have another set for my VVL Coupe as well. I really love how R33 wheels look on coupes. So the Mustang wheels that I've had on here were just kind of for rollers. I'm going to throw these Mustang wheels on the FD for right now, just so the NTO3s aren't sitting outside in the sun until I get that turbo manifold made. So I'll throw these right here, these 33s on the back right here. I was waiting on the fuel rails and the coils for the LS1, and they're finally here. So I had Trevor order them. He has a website, he sells parts, and it's motionautoperformance.com. I'll put a link in the description, but what I did was I had him order me the radium fuel rails, because these are, I'm pretty sure, the best rails for an LS1. I had some fast rails, and these ones just, you know, are very nice and tucked, and you don't have to run the injector top hats. The fast ones, the bracket is super high up. You have to run the spacers on smaller injectors like that. But with these radium ones, they have multiple holes on the bottom, and that allows you to use these on, you know, LS1, LS2, I think everything except LS9 or the supercharged one, whichever one that is. So I'm gonna throw these rails on. Also, the coils are here. So I had an issue with the Holley covers, the valve covers I bought, and the issue was that they use the newer coils. So I had him order me these guys right here, these AM coils. So these right here, hopefully they fit. Let's check this out. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Oh, look at that. Look at that right there. So they line up with the holes. That is what I'm looking for. So now I have the coils, I have the rails. All that's left really is modifying this driver's side header. I also got the hydro film for the valve covers, so I'm gonna hydro dip these valve covers. I was gonna wait, but I feel like I have, you know, time to modify that header. I'm waiting for tie rod ends, so I might as well do the valve covers and all this stuff. I can bolt it all together and it'll be permanently done and together. So let's get these rails on, and I'll wait to put the coils on until the valve covers are hydro dipped. That wraps up this episode of the 240 build, and I am really pleased with the quality of these fuel rails and the color. The fast ones are just red and they're just sticking out there. I really didn't like the quality of the fast ones either. So I did end up having to use injector top hats. Not that big of a deal, but they're in there. So these injectors are, you know, fully bolted to the car. Fuel rails are done. I need to get fittings for them and figure out how I'm gonna run the fuel pressure regulator, or if I'm still gonna run CNG. I am on the edge of both. I'm not exactly sure what I wanna do with it. So it's like a 50-50. It's like a toss. I might toss a quarter, see if I'm gonna run ED5 or if I'm gonna run CNG. We'll see about that. And the hard lines complete. I really am pleased with how those came out. I did, you know, these are just setting on here. These are the old valve covers. The reason I put those on there was because I am hydro dipping the new ones. So I really don't like how they look. They're orange. They don't go with anything on the engine. I just want this thing to look nice and clean. You guys, if you're following me on Instagram, you know what I'm gonna dip them. So if you're not following me on Instagram, go check it out and give me a follow. You can see all the stuff that you don't get to see beforehand, and they're gonna be awesome. I really think they're gonna come out great, and I can't wait to put them back on. Also, once I get those done in the next video, I could throw the coils on, and I could, wire this thing to the ECU and give her a fire up and see how she sounds. I've never heard this engine run, like I've said before. So what I'll do is I'll wire the coils and the crank sensor and the cam sensor, and that's all I really need to start on starting fluid, give her a little spritz and see how she sounds. But I pretty much need a few little things here and there. I need to still modify the header. The tie rod ends should be here, so by the time the next video is up, I should have the headers on. I should have the tie rod ends sorted. I should have this thing back on the ground finally. And I did end up going and putting the R33 wheels on this thing. I have a few sets of those, and I really like how R33 wheels look on coupes. But other than that, this build is getting there. It's getting really close. So really wiring some random fittings. I mean, it'll probably be a couple weeks. I need to still pull my other car out so I can get the diff and coils off of it. But it is getting very close. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, click that subscribe button, comment below, give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you enjoy the videos. See you guys next time.